Ever feel like you're constantly busy, but not making real progress on what matters?
Oh, yeah,
Like drowning in to-dos, but not getting to the things you'd hoped for?
definitely.
Well, we're diving into Cal Newport's slow productivity
Okay.
to explore a different and hopefully more fulfilling way to approach work.
Interesting.
What I found fascinating is that Newport challenges the very idea of what it means to be productive.
No.
We're so used to equating busy with productive,
Right.
but he argues that's often not the case.
He calls it pseudo-productivity.
Yeah, pseudo-productivity.
And his description of the modern knowledge worker
Yeah.
drowning in email,
Endless Zoom meeting.
the to-do list that never shrinks.
That's me on Monday morning.
He uses a great example from the 90s with CBS.
Okay.
They were struggling, and their executive, Les Moonves, basically demanded everyone work longer hours.
Oh, wow.
Classic pseudo-productivity in action.
And it didn't really work, did it?
Not right.
I mean, think about Anthony Zucker, the creator of CSI. He spent years carefully developing his ideas for the show,
Right.
sometimes disappearing for weeks to refine his vision.
And that show became a massive hit.
Yeah.
And really turned things around for CBS.
Yeah, it really highlights how focusing on deep work, even if it seems slower,
Right.
can be much more impactful than just grinding away for hours on end.
Exactly.
So it's like Newport is suggesting we step back from this always-on mentality
Yeah,
and find a slower, more deliberate way to work.
exactly. He connects this idea to the broader slow movement.
Okay.
Think about the slow food movement.
Yeah.
It was a reaction against the fast food culture, a way to reconnect with quality and tradition.
Okay, I get it. It's about savoring the process, not just rushing to get things done.
Right.
So how does this translate to actually being more productive?
Well, Newport lays out 3 key principles.
Okay.
Do fewer things,
Okay.
work at a natural pace,
Okay.
and obsess over quality.
Oh, okay. So let's start with do fewer things.
That's counterintuitive, right?
It
But
does.
wouldn't doing less actually lead to accomplishing less?
That's what I thought at first.
But the book argues that it's about focusing your energy on what truly matters
Okay.
and cutting out everything else.
It's like that saying, if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch neither.
Exactly.
Okay.
He uses the example of Jane Austen,
Oh, yeah.
who wrote some of the most beloved novels in English literature.
From her quiet cottage?
Yes, she had a limited set of responsibilities and a distraction-free environment,
Right.
allowing her to focus deeply on her craft.
So it's not about doing less work overall.
Yeah.
It's about being strategic about where you direct your energy.
Exactly.
So how do we actually apply this do fewer things principle? It's easy to say focus on less,
Yeah.
but how do you actually make that happen when you're constantly bombarded with new requests and deadlines?
One of Newport's strategies is to limit your missions.
Mission.
Not world-saving missions,
Okay.
but the ongoing goals that define your work.
So for me, it might be things like,
So instead of trying to juggle a million things at once,
yeah,
you're being very deliberate about which missions you take on.
I see.
He suggests aiming for 3 to 4 major missions at a time,
Okay.
any more than that. And you risk spreading yourself too thin
Right.
and running into what he calls the overhead tax.
Overhead tax. What's that all about?
Think of it this way. Each new task you take on is like a suitcase you have to carry. Eventually, you're weighed down with so much baggage,
All those emails.
meetings, follow-ups,
Yeah.
that you can barely move. That's the overhead tax.
So it's the administrative burden that comes with each commitment.
Exactly.
Wow, that analogy really hits home.
So by limiting your missions,
Yeah.
you're essentially minimizing that overhead tax
Right.
and freeing up more mental energy for the important stuff.
That makes a lot of sense, but how do you say no to those extra missions?
It is tough.
Especially when they come from your boss or clients.
Newport suggests appealing to the reality of your available time. Instead of just saying, I'm busy, which is easily dismissed,
Right.
try quantifying your existing commitments.
Okay.
You could say something like, I'm fully committed to projects X, Y, and Z for the next 3 weeks.
Huh?
Taking on anything new would compromise my ability to deliver on those commitments.
That's a good point. It's a much more concrete way to set boundaries.
It is.
And it's harder for people to argue with facts.
Right. Exactly. It's about being assertive, not aggressive.
Right.
You're simply stating the facts and protecting your time.
Yeah.
Another tactic he recommends is implementing a simulated pull system.
Simulated pull system. Okay, tell me more about that.
Think of it as a way to gain control over your workflow.
Okay.
Instead of immediately adding every new request to your to-do list,
Yeah.
you create a holding tank for new projects.
So it's like a waiting area for potential projects.
Yes, this gives you the space to evaluate them strategically.
Okay.
Then you create a separate active list for the few projects you're actually working on at any given time. You consciously pull projects into your workflow when you're ready, rather than letting them pile up uncontrollably.
That's brilliant. It's like creating your own personal project management system.
It is.
I can see how that would be incredibly empowering.
It shifts your mindset from being reactive to being proactive.
Yeah, okay.
It's about taking control instead of feeling overwhelmed.
I like that. So we've talked about limiting your missions
Yes.
and using a simulated pull system.
Right.
What are some other ways to implement this do fewer things principle in our daily work?
Newport suggests getting very intentional with your schedule.
Okay.
He recommends limiting the number of major tasks you schedule for each day, ideally to just one.
Just one. Wow, that seems incredibly slow.
It might.
Wouldn't I fall behind if I only tackled one major task per day?
Consider this by focusing intensely on a single objective each day.
Okay.
You eliminate the mental drain of constantly switching between tasks.
Yeah.
You give yourself the space to truly immerse yourself in the work.
It's like going all in on that one thing, rather than spreading yourself thin across multiple tasks.
Exactly. And to streamline your days even further, he suggests creating an autopilot schedule.
Autopilot schedule.
This involves designating specific times for recurring tasks, like email paperwork or client calls.
Okay.
Instead of letting these things interrupt your flow throughout the day,
Right.
you batch them together and tackle them in designated time blocks.
So it's like putting those pesky administrative tasks on autopilot.
Yes.
Freeing up your mental energy for more important work.
Exactly.
This is really making me rethink my entire approach to productivity. It's less about doing more and more,
Right.
and more about being strategic and intentional with your time and energy.
Exactly.
But we're running out of time for this segment.
Okay.
We'll be back to explore the next principle of slow productivity, which is work at a natural pace.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back. We're continuing our deep dive into slow productivity with Cal Newport.
Last time we talked about the principle of do fewer things.
Right, focusing on intentionality and simplifying your workload.
Exactly. And now we're going to explore work at a natural pace.
Okay.
This principle challenges that belief that we have to be constantly pushing ourselves to the limit to be successful.
Yeah.
Newport suggests that we should question that always-on mentality and find a more natural rhythm for our work.
So instead of burning the candle at both ends, we should embrace periods of focused effort balanced with breaks and downtime.
That's the idea. And Newport backs it up with some interesting anthropological research.
Uh-huh.
He looks at hunter-gatherer societies whose work patterns are a stark contrast to our modern obsession with busyness.
Like those studies on the Juhansi people?
Exactly.
They only spent about 20 hours a week on gathering food,
Right.
leaving plenty of time for leisure and social connection.
And more recent research on the Agda people in the Philippines found something similar.
Okay.
The hunter-gatherers had significantly more leisure time compared to those who had shifted to farming.
So it makes you wonder if our modern obsession with constant work is really the most natural or effective way to live.
It really does.
But I mean, we can't exactly adopt a hunter-gatherer lifestyle in today's world.
Sure.
So how do we apply this principle of work at a natural pace to our modern work lives?
Well, we can learn from their approach.
Okay.
The key takeaway is that working with constant intensity is not only unsustainable, it's actually counterproductive in the long run.
It's like trying to sprint a marathon.
Exactly. You'll burn out before you reach the finish line.
So you're suggesting we should all be taking more naps at work?
Not necessarily naps, but definitely more strategic breaks and downtime. Newport highlights historical figures who embraced this approach. Marie Curie took long vacations to recharge, and Isaac Newton famously retreated to the countryside to ponder the laws of gravity.
And didn't John McPhee, the acclaimed journalist, sometimes spend years on a single article?
Right. He wasn't exactly rushing things,
Yeah.
but he produced incredible work.
So it just shows that working at a more natural pace, allowing ideas to develop, and giving yourself that time and space can lead to truly exceptional results.
Exactly. So how can we incorporate this into our own lives?
I can't imagine telling my boss, I need a month off to ponder my next project like Newton under the apple tree.
Sure.
What are some more practical ways to work at a natural pace?
One simple strategy is to intentionally take longer on your projects.
Okay.
If you initially estimate a project will take 2 weeks, try doubling that timeline to 4 weeks.
So you're saying that by slowing down and giving myself more time, I could actually end up with better results.
It's counterintuitive, but it can work.
Okay.
By giving yourself more breathing room, you alleviate the pressure, reduce stress, and create this space for deeper thinking and more creative solutions.
So you're not rushing to meet a deadline.
Right.
You're giving your ideas the time they need to fully develop.
Exactly. Newport also suggests scheduling slow seasons into your year.
Okay.
It's about intentionally reducing your workload and creating space for creative rejuvenation.
I realize that taking a 3-month sabbatical isn't realistic for most of us.
Sure.
But even carving out a week or two here and there to disconnect from work and recharge can make a big difference.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be extravagant. The key is to create periods of intentional downtime.
Okay.
Disconnect from work, engage in activities you enjoy, and allow your mind to wander. It's like hitting the reset button for your brain.
This idea of building downtime into my schedule sounds so liberating.
It can be.
But wouldn't that lead to a drop in productivity?
Not necessarily. Think of it like an athlete training for a marathon.
Okay.
They don't run at full speed every single day.
Right.
They incorporate rest days and recovery periods into their training plan.
So it's about finding a sustainable rhythm, not pushing yourself to the limit all the time.
Exactly. And by taking regular breaks and recharging, you can actually boost your overall productivity in the long run.
You mentioned the company Basecamp earlier.
Yes.
They've actually built this principle into their work structure, haven't they?
Yes. They work in 6 to 8 week cycles, followed by a mandatory 2-week cool-down period.
Wow.
The employees come back from the cool-down refreshed and energized, ready to tackle the next work cycle.
That sounds amazing.
It can be very effective.
But I'm thinking about those of us stuck in the 9-to-5 grind.
Yeah.
How can we incorporate a more natural pace of work when we don't have as much control over our schedules?
Even in those situations, there are ways to embrace a slower pace.
Like what?
Start by simplifying your workday.
Okay.
Reduce the number of tasks you schedule and limit meetings.
So it's about being more selective with our time and commitment.
Yes.
Prioritizing deep focused work over shallow reactive tasks.
Exactly. Newport recommends cutting your daily task list by 25 to 50%.
Wow.
It sounds drastic, but it forces you to focus on what truly matters.
Okay, and for meetings?
Aim to keep them to no more than half your workday.
And maybe even designate certain hours as meeting-free zones
That's a great idea.
to create dedicated blocks of time for focused work.
All of this is about taking back control of your schedule and creating a space for a more natural rhythm of work. It's about working smarter, not harder.
This is all making so much sense.
Good.
It really is a different way of thinking about productivity.
It is.
It's not about cramming as much as possible into every single day.
Right.
It's about finding a pace that allows you to do your best work without burning out.
Working at a natural pace is about rediscovering a more sustainable and fulfilling way to work.
Okay.
One that aligns with your natural rhythms and helps you achieve your best without sacrificing your well-being.
This has been so insightful.
I'm glad.
I'm already starting to think about how I can apply these ideas to my own work.
Right?
Now, coming up next, we'll be diving into the final principle of slow productivity: obsess over quality.
That one's my favorite.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been exploring Cal Newport's slow productivity and how it can help us find a more fulfilling and sustainable way to work.
We've already covered do fewer things and work at a natural pace.
Right, and how those can really transform our approach to work.
Exactly. And now we're going to dive into the final principle.
Oh,
Obsess over quality.
This one really speaks to me. It's about shifting our focus from just checking things off our list
Yeah.
to creating work we can be truly proud of.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that striving for exceptional work can actually make your career less stressful and more fulfilling.
I can see how that might sound counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Wouldn't obsessing over quality just add more pressure?
It might seem that way at first, but Newport argues that focusing on quality naturally leads to a slower, more deliberate approach.
Okay.
And that ties in perfectly with the first two principles we discussed.
So by aiming for quality, we naturally end up doing fewer things and working at a more natural pace.
It all comes together.
It all comes together.
He uses the example of singer-songwriter Jewel.
Oh yeah, Jewel.
Early in her career, she was all about the hustle and grind, taking any gig she could get. But it wasn't until she shifted her focus to quality, to honing her craft and creating truly exceptional music, that she found lasting success.
She even turned down a $1 million record deal.
Wow.
Because she felt her music wasn't ready.
That's commitment.
Yeah, she took the time to develop her skills and create an album that truly reflected her vision.
And that album, Pieces of You, became a massive hit.
Huge hit.
A testament to the power of prioritizing quality over speed.
It shows that when you produce exceptional work, people notice.
They do.
And it's not just about personal satisfaction.
Right.
It can lead to professional success as well. But how do we actually put this principle into practice in our own work?
Newport suggests investing in high-quality tools and resources.
Okay.
This signals that you're serious about your craft.
So for a writer, that might mean upgrading to professional writing software.
Right.
Or for a podcaster, investing in a top-notch microphone.
Exactly. It's about making a commitment to excellence, even in the small details.
It's a way of saying to yourself and to the world, I'm committed to producing the best work possible.
I like that.
Newport also talks about the importance of finding or creating a mastermind group.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
A mastermind group is a small group of like-minded people who come together to support each other's growth.
Okay.
They provide feedback, accountability, and encouragement, helping each other strive for excellence.
So it's like having a built-in support system for your pursuit of quality.
It is.
You're surrounding yourself with people who inspire you to do your best.
And it's not just about receiving feedback.
Right.
It's about contributing your expertise and helping others elevate their work.
It's a collaborative process that benefits everyone involved.
Exactly.
Earlier, we talked about the role of pressure in producing quality work.
Right.
I know I often do my best work when I have a deadline looming.
You're not alone. Many people thrive under pressure.
Yeah.
Newport acknowledges this and suggests a bet-on-yourself strategy
Okay.
to create the conditions for exceptional work.
What does that entail?
It's about taking a calculated risk, putting yourself in a situation where the stakes are high, even if it means stepping outside your comfort zone.
It's like Bill Gates dropping out of Harvard to start Microsoft.
Exactly. While most of us aren't going to be founding the next Microsoft,
True.
we can apply this principle in smaller ways.
Okay, so like dedicating a chunk of your free time to a passion project.
Right.
Knowing that if you don't make progress, you're essentially wasting that precious time.
That's a great example. Or maybe it's taking a temporary pay cut to gain experience in a new field that really excites you.
It's about creating those conditions that push you to rise to the occasion.
Exactly.
This is all so insightful. I'm already thinking about ways to incorporate these ideas into my own work.
I'm glad to hear that. As we wrap up our deep dives into slow productivity, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
So to recap, slow productivity is not about being lazy.
No.
It's a deliberate choice to prioritize quality intentionality and a sustainable rhythm of work.
Exactly. It's about redefining what it means to be productive and finding a way to work that is more fulfilling, less stressful, and ultimately more successful.
And you don't have to change everything overnight.
Yep.
Just start with one small change.
Right.
Limit your missions, schedule a slow season, invest in a high-quality tool that elevates your work.
Even small steps can lead to big changes over time.
So if you could only choose one principle from slow productivity to focus on this week, which one would it be, and how would you apply it to your own work? We hope this exploration has sparked some new ideas and inspired you to find a more fulfilling way to work. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep creating work that truly matters.